A while ago, a little more than a year now, everything went remote. Working from home didn't work for some, but it also opened a lot of new doors for others. Like us at User Times, we've now gone totally remote. Remote user research in this context also came into light, and today we're discussing the most frequently asked questions about conducting remote user research. Hi there, it's me, Jonas. Welcome to another informative video in user research. With all of us still trying to do things from a safe distance, today we're talking about the biggest concerns in remote user research. Regardless of the condition of the world we happen to be living in, remote user research is always applicable, and knowing how to properly conduct a remote session is a great skill to have and a great way to go global with your research. Just because the user testing session is remote now, many things for on-site interviews are still valid, but there are some remote specific topics you should care about. In general, it's a great method, and if conducted properly, remote user research will yield great results, and you may find it to be your most preferred testing method. But depending on your use case, target audience, or research object, there may be major benefits on on-site testing, so choose wisely. If you choose remote, there will be some fundamental questions coming up. So let's get through those one by one, starting with the first one. What do I need to understand when conducting a remote study for the first time? Before trying to conduct a remote study on other users, we recommend carrying out an internal playtest or getting feedback from your network or your community. That means trying out the study on other fellow coworkers as sort of a trial. That way you can identify any mistakes, misunderstandings, or maybe even figure out different ways to conduct your line of questioning or testing some technical stuff, for example, before conducting the real study. Check out whether your company, your community, or your network has upcoming events where you can do a dry run in an easy environment without too much effort. There are specialized usability testing events as well as opportunities, for example, on a customer days or trade fairs, where you can just invite people to see the product and ask them some questions and get some basic understanding of how such an interview could look like. Another way to prepare is to review existing records. So that way you could benefit and possibly learn from examples by another interviewer, and you could see the practices that could be helpful for your own upcoming test. Another third option is to test the remote user testing concept by changing the tables. So basically changing the site, participate in a remote user testing session by registering with a panel as a participant yourself. I know it's time consuming, but this way you get the pure experience and knowing what testees want and what they need and how you could shape your interviews. So in summation, you could carry out an internal playtest, participate in community testings, review existing recordings, or register with a panel. So let's go to the next question. How do I choose the right method? That depends on multiple factors. At first, what is your focus? Is it more general user experience, or do you have a very specific topic you want to dig deep into? Then on the second part, is it the reactions you are looking for? Are they more actions, so basically the behavior of the participants, or it's more like you want to know their intentions and understand the user? Based on these, you can get a more detailed view on, is it more a qualitative study or a quantitative study? Therefore, you will limit the methods you want to use. Depending on how much time do you have and what kind of capabilities, should it be an unmoderated test or a moderated test, which is strongly connected to what kind of method you want to choose. And last but not least, the measuring. Do you need special scales or metrics to communicate to others within your team, for example? Which ones? So basically, based on these, you can select your methods. The typical methods are classical user testing. So you have the typical one-on-one session with a product, or you have a user interview where you mostly do an interview with a person to get their thoughts on it, or do for example, eye tracking, which can be even done remote to know where they are looking onto. What tools do I need? As for the tools, you will need a minimal set of different tools. This includes mostly communication tools, so like a telephone or a conferencing tool. There are specialized tools for user research for communication, but the first two are suitable for many methods too. And secondly, supportive software, for example, for collaboration with your assistants, for note-taking, stuff like this. In terms of software, you need to consider everything related to privacy at first. So for example, is your software compliant to GDPR or other legal requirements in the participants and interviewers' country? Because you have obviously to stick to those rules to be legal here. Sometimes you already have suitable software licenses or there's a trial available. So check out those to limit the effort of getting new software licenses, but on the other side, just use what you already have to start with. And last but not least, are all required functions available? So for example, if you need a recording, you should have a tool which allows recording. The very foundation is being able to talk and to interact with each other. So everything else is on top. This is why I stated the basic communication tools are the basic to getting started with remote user research, and you don't have to have any more to do research. For sure, many tools allow many more in-depth interviews or interaction, so choose wisely, but start with the very, very basics. How do I organize the participants and the schedule? Use scheduling tools such as Doodle or Calendly to make appointments for testing sessions with your users easier. The advantage of these tools is that the user can choose an appointment themselves, and it's within a fixed period of time, and it's in accordance to your calendar. In addition, it's advisable to have your test users' telephone numbers. That way you can call them if they are not online at their scheduled time, or the connection is lost due to internet issues on one of the both sides. In addition, you can save a lot of time during the individual testing sessions by sending the test users a briefing by email in advance. This way you can have less explanation efforts during the test, and the test users can prepare themselves and ask their questions right at the beginning, and you will have more time for your interview. Another golden rule in scheduling of user testing is to include a time buffer. Many unpredictable things can happen always. So such a delayed start of a testing session or some technical issues. So we just planning at least 15 minutes, better 30 minutes between two test users to set up everything and have time buffer if something got delayed. This buffer is also useful to review your notes from the previous sessions to prepare yourself. So in summation, use scheduling tools, obtain users' telephone numbers, send a briefing email, and include a time buffer. How should I prepare last minute for the interview? A good idea is to check in on the participants' information and double check their consent documents. So for example, if you conduct a study with an international background, the legal conditions might be different. You also need to keep in mind technical issues may come up. To prevent this, carry out a call one day before and clarify the software works and clarify questions so everything works the following day. If you don't have time, an assistant could do this for you. You could carry out a dry one too. Once the study has been planned, you should carry out another dry one before starting. As with the playtest recommended at the beginning, the participant here can also be a colleague or any other person, just to get something straight and get into the flow. Generally, double check everything: the date, participant info and what is done with it, the software which will be used, and do you have the latest version? And of course, block all distractions. During a testing session, your test users should be undisturbed. So this means that you should turn off everything distracting. This includes especially email notification, pop-ups, and yes, even your smartphone, or at least mute it. Distractions can also occur in the analog world. For example, when people enter the room without an announcement. A do not disturb sign at your door can go a long way. How do you conduct a remote interview? Moderated interviews are in many aspects like an on-site interview, having a good conversation and be respectful with each other. Because of its nature, remote user research makes it difficult to establish a trust because it takes away body language, so you have to be vocal and reassure the user. So it's very important to make the user testee feel comfortable. You should turn on your camera so it does not seem like you're watching them in a cage. And as a sign of extra consideration, you should ask again if it's okay to record the session. Consent is always king. Always point out the famous principle. We are testing the product, we are not testing you. And take away some unnecessary fears or obstacles. For example, encourage the user to ask about technical issues upfront or to clarify instructions if there is anything. So you have a trust here and nothing in the way. One thing you should be cautious about is potential privacy issues coming from the participant's side. So one of them would be related to screen recordings. For example, digital notes with passwords on their desktop, notifications popping up, or autocomplete content showing other private information like for a credit card number. The second thing is related to video or audio recordings. It may occur the participant gets interrupted by others, for example, their children, and those be part of the recordings, which is not legal because of obviously the missing consent. So keep in mind to not violate the privacy of the testee and their background. If something occurs, tell the participant and take the timestamp so you will be able to remove the section as soon as possible from the recordings. The topic of trust is even more important if you have additional viewers on your side in the interview. For example, if your stakeholders want to observe the testing session, communicate this with the test users upfront without freaking them out. This also means that the majority stakeholders should not be seen on camera as they may come across as distracting or intimidating. Communication always is key. So before you start recording, tell them. Again, ask them if it's okay and tell them how the recording will be used later on. For unmoderated sessions, don't get seduced into getting feedback mainly via formed responses and scales. I recommend writing down the questions and letting the participants answer via voice and encourage them to tell the reasons why they pick a certain scoring on a scale, for example. This way you learn more about the why and not only the what. And obviously you get more answers or more detailed answers because for most of the people it's easier to talk than to type. How should I process the gathered data? Before analyzing collected data, make sure to anonymize the personal identifiable information in accordance with the consent and your research guidelines. Then comes the time to analyze your data. Here we recommend applying the Atomic UX research principles. In the description, you will find all the information we've gathered on Atomic UX through videos, blog posts, and even an email series you can subscribe to. All these will help you learn how to analyze your data through the Atomic UX process. In general, collect all notes, observations, and patterns you can find and make sense of them. One important thing is to keep the links in between your summaries and the raw data to be able to understand the context later on too. And finally, share your findings. Tell your colleagues in whatever way you prefer through, we recommend hosting a video session, a workshop, or a campfire session, currently online. A live event always improves the discussion and the buy-in of other team members. How should I efficiently close the case? First thing is to make sure your files will be easily accessible in the future and that they are organized in such a way that when you decide to revisit the case, you won't get lost. This is not only valid for the report, but for all documents you created and all data you collected, because obviously you don't want that effort to vanish. The best way to do this is using a repository, and As some of you might know, I'm one of the founders of the user insights repository Considerly, so check it out. The first goal is to document what you've learned. Your new hypotheses that either allows you to improve your product and or boost the next remote user testing session. And the second is to assure everything gained in these interviews can contribute to improving the product from now on. That's everything from me today. If you have any more questions, leave a comment or you can find my email in the description and just send me a message. You can also book a demo with me to find out more about the tool Considerly through the link also in the description, and we can work out together how Considerly suits your needs. Tell me how remote user research works out for you. Here at Considerly, we go through these motions quite often when conducting our own research, so I understand how intimidating it can be. But if you follow these steps, it will make the whole affair much easier. I hope you have a great day and wish for successful remote testing sessions.